Last month was 43 years on the road, and I've been through all parts of Pennsylvania for decades, so I'm excited to get back and do a great show. I got a duo with me and a buddy, Greg Varlotta, and, we're doing a very colorful, extensive 2 hours plus show, so I'm excited to get there. Yeah, it's acoustic duo is misleading. I do a lot of jamming on the acoustic and electric guitar. Got some more aggressive effects in my acoustic because I do play a lot of lead guitar on the acoustic. We got a keyboard rig with synth and piano and string sounds that Greg and I bounce back and forth from, and he's a great trumpet player and trombone player. But we play trumpet. He plays trumpet in the show, and I have some tap dancing segments where it's not really tap. It's more percussion. It's using the tap and a board with some effects on it as a deeper, heavier percussion sound. That's pretty, I think, fairly creative, and Greg he's just really great at it. So it's a very colorful show. We're all over the place, and I'm excited. We've been doing it off and on now for quite a while. I just completed a new album called Old School that is actually literally this last hour became available on iTunes, and if you go to nilslofgren.com, you can pre-order it. We should have the hard copies by the end of the month. We may not have them at the show in Harrisburg, but it's coming soon, and really excited to have some new music out, too. Yeah, that's an old time. Again, it's just kind of a nod to the whole concept. Sam Moore, of course, is one of the iconic singers from Sam and Dave, and he's a friend and a neighbor. He's been living in Scottsdale longer than me, so I've been here 15 years with my wife Amy, and gotten to know Sam and his wife Joyce through the various charity events, and we've done, many a show together. We did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame show with the E Street Band and Bruce. Sam came out and sang with us. So anyway, I was honored that he did the duet with me, and in the spirit of, kind of the old school rock and roll, there's quite a long extended guitar solo there at the end while Sam and I are riffing through it, and just representative of the record, I think, is a lot of electric stuff and acoustic stuff and guitar playing and everything else. It's one of my favorite records, I think. I'm thrilled to finally have something new to share. So it's nice to have some new music out, and I'm hope to spend the next year on the road promoting it, and trying to get some videos made. And it's kind of a grassroots effort because I don't have a record company, but that's fine because it allows me to do exactly what I want. Well, we're all 40 years plus into it, so at the end of the day, we all recognize that the more live and spontaneous you can get something, the better. That being said, there's a lot of times, it's a case of going fishing, and you're looking for something that works. So sometimes it requires great patience to kind of work on an idea for hours on end, and, you can't just wing it and play the first thing that comes to mind and move on because, although that might be musical, it might not be ideally the best part of the puzzle. So you just get a thick skin and for patience, and you realize that it's kind of a long adventure you're in for, and kind of putting a puzzle together. And look, the Tonight's the Night album the theme was live in the studio, no one gets to change a note. Of course, those are my favorite records because you don't have to work as hard. You play passionately into it, and you're forbidden to fix anything. That was also the theme of my Nils Sings Neil the Loner record, which was the last thing I made, which initially I had no desire to, I just didn't see any reason to do it, and then I realized after singing about 30 Neil Young songs for 2 weeks to my dogs and cats that some of them stopped sounding like karaoke, and they might be cool as a performance piece, not as a production piece. So that was the other, same ground rules. It was like you have to perform it with an instrument, a guitar or a piano. Has to be a full take. There's no production. You can't fix anything. And with those guidelines, it was a fun record to make. So everything's different. This new album, Old School, it was a very homegrown adventure here in my home studio. And near the end, I used a studio across town to mix it with a friend, Jameson Weddle, a great local engineer. But most of it was just in my garage here. And, being able to walk back to the house, see my wife, my family, my dogs, just kind of have it be a slow but sure adventure and a homegrown project I feel proud of. But the overriding theme to that was, you can't record the song until you can play it and sing it live in its entirety. And, yes, I patch a note here and there, but rather than construct it from the ground up as a jigsaw puzzle, it had a core nucleus of a performance. Most of the vocals are live. And then all the parts around it, just to me, have a lot more life and are a lot fresher because the meat of the thing, meaning the song and the lyric and the vocal performance, was mostly done live with which in general is more of an emotional thing than overdubbing at, hour after hour. Although part of being a professional musician is getting good at that and being able to maintain a level of, not just musicality, but emotion as you do that. So it's all just a process. We've all done it a million different ways, including crafting something that, some people do great records that they craft almost every note of. And I don't really, I think my forte is more of a live thing, so I try to incorporate as much live performing into it as possible. And, even as a producer, I kind of, it's weird. I'm a Gemini, so I'm not really into the stars or horoscopes, but I do relate to multiple personalities, and I'll get into a handful of them as I work, and the producer will, if you will, have a guitar player just, don't analyze what you're doing, just play emotionally for 2 or 3 takes, and don't listen to it, walk away. And then the next day the producer might come in, and instead of being the guitar player playing emotionally, I'll sit there and analyze the 3 tracks and maybe take 8 bars from this track, and as much as I can, big swaths of performance segments to try to put together a part, as opposed to going line by line and crafting lines, which you can do, but from my experience at the end of the day, it gets a little more homogenized and slick, and I wanted to keep this record, as the title said, old school, which I managed to do, I think. People come live to hear something that's familiar and new, and it's a fine balance between, I think psychologically, even if it was a good record, if you played a whole night of stuff no one ever heard, which we did on the Tonight Tonight tour, it didn't go over so well. And people were upset and wanted to hear Neil Young's classic songs, which is understandable. So there's a fine balance between giving them what they want, including something they've never heard that's fresh. And if you find even if you seek that balance, I think people feel it and notice that you're trying to work hard to give them something good, but not so unfamiliar they can't really grab onto it and have it be a powerful night for them. I don't play something because I think the audience likes it and I'm not into it, because if I'm not into it, I just don't think it's going to work. So, I need to be emotionally attached and involved with whatever I do, but my vision of the night is I want people to go, wow, that was a special emotional night for me. And I don't think that can happen if you don't play some things that are familiar and important to them. What happens is, depending on the type of solo, like if you're just jamming the blues, I could do that for, hours and try to, feel like I could be into it. But when you're doing a song like, in point in case Youngstown, when we started doing that in 99, 2000, I believe, it was this great song, and at the end, Bruce just said, I'm going to give you a nod to play a little lead guitar at the end to wrap it up, and it was usually about 20 seconds. We went through the progression once or twice and ended it. So I just improv through it. It was a nice little energetic instrumental piece, and just without discussing it over the course of months, the thing grew. Bruce kept giving me a don't stop yet signal, and the thing grew from about 20 seconds to 2 minutes. And at that point, it was so long, and you're already in front of this powerful band and singer who have just sung this great song with this incredible arrangement of, you got mandolin, you got accordion, you got heavy metal guitars, and this screaming, banshee, tortured voice that Bruce sings that song in, ominous thing. And it was just too long. It was like I was jamming, the energy was there, but I wasn't happy with what I was doing. So I went and crafted some themes that I knew would build through the 2 minutes. And that way I knew that, I could improv around the themes, And then, if Bruce was still letting it go, then I'd have another theme to move up to that kind of lifted the piece regardless of the improv inside the theme. And that was kind of, anytime a solo starts getting really, really long, I'll try to do that. I didn't do it so much in Ghost of Tom Joad. I just kind of improv that, but I certainly did it with Because the Night and Youngstown, just because they became so long. I just didn't feel comfortable totally winging it. I wanted to have some themes that built every 16 bars to wing through, if you will, and, kind of fly in and out of. But I knew that if I needed to keep playing solos, and Bruce said keep going, I had another level to get to, that I had a solid theme that was automatically going to lift the band up. Because, no matter how you cut it, that's a large, powerful band, and you're standing up there with this tiny little thin strings going through an amp, and there's only so much you can do just energy-wise. Then it really comes down to the notes, like what are you playing? What's the theme? You become an instrumentalist, and you can't just improv blues and expect it to work for 2 minutes every night at the end of a song like Youngstown. So I crafted some touchstones that helped it build. We did it for most of the Born USA tour, and then at the end of that, I did my own flip tour in England and Europe. That was late October, November of '85. And then after that, I started, I do the flip without the guitar on, which doesn't really count. But that was really about the end of it. I started developing osteoarthritis in both hips through mostly basketball playing. I played basketball in city courts all the time as a hobby, and jumping off drum risers and flips and all that on stage. I started really hurting myself. And so anyway, it got to a point where it became kind of dangerous. And eventually, 3 years ago, I had to get both hips replaced. The surgeon has looked at all the stuff I do, and all the pirouettes and jumping around is still considered low impact. He said that the trampoline should stay in the closet, and I should stop leaping off drum risers because the new hips aren't built to sustain that impact. But I'm pain-free. I'm jumping around, having a ball, something that I've been hurting a bit for the last 10 years because of the hips. And it's really nice now. The last tour I did with Bruce, working on a dream, and all the gigs I've done subsequently in the last couple of years, I've been pain-free and hopping around like I was a kid again, but the trampoline is in the closet. Yeah, no, that's an awful thing to figure out. And at this point, it's almost like it's kind of a bit of maybe wallowing in my own heartbreak, but since it's not my decision anyway, I've given myself permission while I grieve Clarence's loss to let that be an impossible and inappropriate subject for me. I just really, I don't know. It's not my place to say either way. We can't be the band we were because Clarence is gone, and we miss him terribly. And I had a great friendship with him. We spoke every week off the road, and of course every day on the road. So, I just have no idea what the future will hold, and that's really Bruce's call, of course. No, I've been talking about that with people for 20 years, and the book, to be the book it should be, is not a book I want to write because it just involves too many great friends and, that are living and dead, famous and not, and just, but what I have decided is, if they would, because people keep, loving the stories, and I've got so many. I posted my first short story at nilslofgren.com. There's actually a page called Rockleat, which has some videos of my athletic exploits. But if you go to the page Rockality, there's the first long short story posted of what I hope will be the first of many. I've got my hands full with this record, but that's the start of sharing these stories, and the first one is at the Rockality page at nilslofgren.com. It's free, and you might check it out. You get a kick out of it. It involves Bruce and Clarence, too, so it might be a poignant thing to read through while you do the article.